Hello, and welcome to the online version of St. James Family Weekend. For the sake of limiting screen time, which is always a problem, and trying to be effective, I'm going to give you a quick short introduction to this class and to myself. Hello, my name is Catherine DeWalt. This is my fourth year teaching at St. James, and if my voice or face seem familiar but the name isn't matching, I recently was married to Mr. DeWalt, who teaches math here. I used to go by Miss Miller, so that may be how you know me. A little bit of my own background. I am a product of the boarding school environment. I went to boarding school up in North Jersey, and I loved it so much, even though we had Saturday classes, that I decided I wanted to be an English teacher at a boarding school. So I use that against my students a lot, that I loved boarding school. After boarding school, I went on to Lafayette College, where I double majored in English and history with a minor in philosophy, and then continued my educational pursuits through the Breadloaf campus at Middlebury College in Vermont. Breadloaf, although it's a crazy name for a college, is the master's in English literature through Middlebury. And Vermont is now what I consider home. It's where my parents are. So while that's important and great, and I could talk about all of those things forever, what's really important to this video and to my class is how I approach English as a teacher. I have a goal that I want everyone to get something from my class. While it would be fantastic that every student of mine wanted to be an English teacher and passionately loved English, that's a little unrealistic. Instead, what I want for my students is to give them skills and tools that they will use no matter what major they go into or no matter what profession. So whether or not you are a doctor, a researcher, a engineer, or a professional basketball player, you need to have fundamental skills that revolve around critical thinking. And the fundamental skills that my class works on is critical reading, speaking, and writing. Because as you all can attest and be on my side on this, you can't escape reading, speaking, and writing no matter what your profession is. Anyway, so when we approach critical reading, for my class, that means one major thing. Whenever we read something for my class, all of my students have to annotate. Whether it is a novel, play, poem, or essay, everything that I hand to them has to be annotated. They have to make symbols on the side to draw attention to important quotes or to things that they're confused about and they need my help with. I also have them underline and highlight and write in the margins to help them understand what questions they're trying to ask and how is this quote going to be helpful for an upcoming essay. By being an active reader, we are engaging more with the text, we understand it better, and we are more prepared for those scary things like pop quizzes or pop in-class essay, which we haven't gone to yet because we're still working on those basics. After reading, the way I think about it is we have to work on a critical speaking. And critical speaking, for me, goes beyond just presentations and debates. So while we do those things, and they do have a little bit of a grade, the biggest grade for critical speaking skills is something called a Harkness dialogue. A Harkness dialogue, or Harkness, is something that was created in the the New England boarding school world, and it essentially is a pedagogical tool to help students have a valuable and intelligent discussion around literature or an idea. Harkness dialogue not only just tallies how many times a student speaks, but it tallies what kind of language we're using when we're speaking. There's a difference between a comment and a critical thinking comment. There's a difference between a textual reference and a question. And all of these things get us points. So if we're really raring to go to show off that we understand the material, we can have critical thinking questions and critical thinking comments and textual references. And if we don't understand the material or are really shy speaking out loud, if we just ask a question like, "Hi, I was really confused about Act 2, Scene 3," that gets us points too. It's just about engaging with the text and getting our voices out there. Harkness dialogues are also fantastic because the biggest rule in a Harkness dialogue is I cannot speak. I set a timer between 10 to 20 minutes, and I am absolutely silent. It is 100% dependent on my students to carry the conversation. All these things, critical thinking, critical reading, critical speaking, build up to the biggest grade at St. James English classes, which is writing. Typically, my students write 1 to 2 expositional pieces a week. Now that's slowed down a little bit because of the hiccups that come with hybrid learning, but we're still doing a lot of writing. And in my opinion, the biggest difference between third form and fourth form is the type of writing I'm expecting from my students. While third form, we really focus on trying to create an argument, fourth form, we try to focus on creating a complex and original idea around an argument. And that difference is huge. I push them in this direction through more complex prompts and longer pieces, but it's something that we build to. So for instance, right now we're doing our first big critical thinking complex piece about Shakespeare's Macbeth. The prompt was detail the mental deterioration of either Lady Macbeth or Macbeth, which is confusing. And instead of having them argue something like they are mentally deteriorating, which is an argument, they have to tell me how, why, what triggered it, how do we know this as readers that they've gone to a world that they can't come back from. And this is the complexity that they need in fifth and sixth form and college, no matter what they pursue. And it's another level of individualism that we can introduce to our writing. Another added level of complexity is also secondary sources. So in hand with our history department, we're now introducing more secondary sources into our writing. So if one of my students is writing about the mental deterioration of Macbeth throughout the play, they also have to mention Thomas de Quincey's famous essay, A Knocking at the Gate of Macbeth. All of this is a lot to handle early in fourth form, which means that the writing piece is not just writing, but pre-writing and editing. So one of their bigger grades for this essay is the outline, which I'm going to collect today and give them feedback on. It's another rough draft, it's peer editing, and then it's their final draft. And that's the St. James Bell. And that's actually the end of my conversation. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me at cdewalt@stjames.edu. I can answer questions via email, or if you really want to get to know about this class, about me, my expectations, we can always set up a Teams meeting or use other technology that's available to us. Finally, I just want to say thank you for being a great support system to my students during this time. Whether your kid is here at St. James or online, having a support system back at home is always really great and is always appreciated by me. So thank you so much, and I hope this video was at least informational for you. Have a great rest of your weekend.